Hi, I'm John Malice. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this Friday morning. Glad you're here. The mayor of Fresno is here. His first appearance since the election in November. You can call in at 436-MeTV option 11. We're going to limit our commercial time today so we can give the mayor more time to talk about the issues facing the city of Fresno. Back in just a moment.
Tonight I want to discuss the importance of the television medium to the American people.
Glad you're here on this Friday morning on February the 24th. We've been promoting this all week long that the mayor of Fresno is going to be here, and the day has finally arrived. He is here, gracious enough, and he has kept his word. He's a man of his word. That's right. So the mayor of Fresno is going to be with us just in a minute here, but I got to get to a couple of other things, and that is for Monday. Our guest on Monday will be Evan Onstott of KC24. You know, he does that political show on Sunday mornings. It's a great show. Evan's been here as a guest before. He covered both political conventions over the summer last year, so we'll talk to him a little bit about that and what issues are facing the city of Fresno as well. Then on Tuesday, our friend Becky Cinema will be here. Becky is going to run down what happened on Sunday night with the Oscars. The Oscars are, of course, Sunday night. Jimmy Kimmel is the host. And I'm not sure if Matt Damon likes that, but like it or not, it's going to be Jimmy Kimmel. So Becky will run it all down for us on Tuesday. It should be a fun program. Right now, you're watching us live on Comcast Channel 375 as usual, Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock in the morning. Glad you're here. But if you don't have Comcast, it's 43.6, 13.1 over-the-air broadcast. Later in the day, like it or not, we're here at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 13.6 YouTube. 8 o'clock tonight on 4.6 Biz TV. After that, my friends, you can catch us on YouTube if you happen to miss this program or can't stay for the duration. Anyway, I want to start out before I get into the interview, and that is, you know, every day I do a little monologue here, so I'm going to give my little spiel right here. As you may know, the mayor is here now, but as long as I've known him, it hasn't been that long. It's about a year and a half now since he's come on this program campaigning to be mayor. As long as I have known him, during that time period, he has been honest, hardworking, conscientious. He's a man of his word. He's on the job today as the city Fresno moves forward. He's tough and he's honest, as I said. We want to make the mayor feel very comfortable here on Connect with Me on MeTV Fresno so he can talk about the issues very freely, openly, and honestly so he can come back, perhaps use this program as a forum to talk about the issues and connect with you, the voter and the viewer and the citizens of Fresno. So if you call in, be respectful. You can ask any question you want as long as you do it in a respectful way. I want to start out by talking about the issue here in the city of Fresno that Fresno is not a sanctuary city. You may recall on January the 25th, the mayor of Fresno, Lee Brand, gave an interview with the Fresno Bee talking about this very issue. Here is what Mayor Lee Brand had to say at the time.
I'm in a quandary between a Democratic power structure in Sacramento and a Republican power structure in Washington, D.C. My goal is to have the best relationship with both entities to get the maximum benefit from the city of Fresno. In the case of a sanctuary city, we're a nation of laws, and so I'm going to follow. I can't selectively interpret which law I want to follow. So Fresno is not a sanctuary city. Okay, I don't intend to make Fresno a sanctuary city. That being said, doesn't underscore the issues here and the population and immigration. I have a heart, I understand those issues, but to me it's a federal issue. It's up to the federal government to get a comprehensive immigration policy. And the ag industry in this whole region here, they want the same thing. They want to find a solution, but that's up to the federal government to do that. And if by putting Fresno as a sanctuary city, I'm jeopardizing millions of dollars of potential infrastructure funds, then I'm not serving my city, because ultimately my responsibility is to the people of Fresno. If that means as a Republican going to Sacramento and working with the Democrats, I'll do that. if it means creating jobs and getting money for the city of Fresno. And conversely, I'll go to DC and work with the Trump administration on trying to find money for infrastructure and whatever we can do to make this a better city. That's my responsibility. To get caught in these culture wars is going to be divisive and dysfunctional for the citizens of Fresno.
All right, that video courtesy of the Fresno Bee. And then that following weekend, the protesters called for Lee Brand to take it back. They wanted Fresno to become a sanctuary city. And a few days later, the mayor held a news conference at City Hall surrounded by a bunch of community leaders, including Police Chief Jerry Dyer. Here's what he said at the time.
Amidst the ongoing debate in Washington and across the country, city leaders came together to reassure Fresno's immigrant community. Last week, Mayor Lee Brand drew criticism after announcing that he would not make Fresno a so-called sanctuary city. Today, he, along with Fresno Police Chief Jerry Dyer and Councilwoman Esmeralda Soria, addressed the issue and wanted to ease fears that the police department will not enforce immigration laws and will not arrest anyone because they are not an American citizen. It's a policy that has been in Fresno for 15 years.
The only difference between Fresno and other cities who label themselves as sanctuary cities are only words with no clear definition. I ask the people today and throughout our community to judge me and the city of Fresno by our actions. One more point.
Brand concluded by calling on lawmakers for immigration reform and a path to citizenship for immigrants.
Live in our studio right now is Lee Brand. He is the mayor of Fresno. He is here to talk about this issue and much more, so he'll clear up the controversy if there is any. Fresno has not been a sanctuary city for a very long time, if ever. We'll talk to him about that. And just keep in mind, Margaret Mims, the sheriff of Fresno, has long said that they are not making immigration sweeps across the city of Fresno. Yes, ICE is in the jail, talking to criminals and collecting information on their backgrounds and such, but no widespread sweeps across the city for immigration sweeps. Anyway, 436-MEET-TV, option 11 if you want to call in. Be very respectful when you call in. The mayor is here. Back in just a moment.
The Justice Network is here. If you haven't tuned in, you're missing a great lineup of gripping stories of real crime, plus an unprecedented effort by viewers like you to play an active role in making your community safer. You can help support law enforcement by providing information that may lead to the apprehension of dangerous criminals or find a missing child. Great shows and your chance to fight crime, only on the Justice Network.
Not sure what you're watching? Want to see what's coming up next? Or just want to browse what's on without the hassle of flipping channels? Your wish has come true. Now you can view schedules for all the digital TV channels available in the Central Valley. Get local weather updates and forecasts, and listen to nationally syndicated Biz Talk Radio, all on KVHF 4.1. Rescan your TV now, then tune in to digital channel 4.1 to start enjoying the all-new TV guide.
Back here on the program with Mayor Lee Brand. Glad you're here. 436-MEET-TV, option 11. We'll try to limit our commercial time today, so we'll give the mayor just a little bit more time to talk. Mayor Brand, good to see you. How does that sound? That kind of rolls off your tongue?
Still,
Mayor Brand.
Yeah, every place I go now, it's Mayor Brand. And I've said if I'm here one term or two terms, good mayor, bad mayor, probably the rest of my life I'll be known as the mayor. So
yeah,
hopefully I'll leave a good mark.
Yeah, well, congratulations on the victory. But let me ask you first of all, this is a question that I've heard some people ask, and maybe you can clear it up. There are some people on the far right that believe that this should never be a sanctuary city. We should round up all the immigrants that are illegal and just throw them out. Those are the people that seem to be upset at you, at least from my vantage point. Can you understand just a little bit by holding that news conference that maybe they're a little bit upset, maybe in their minds they have the perception that, oh, Lee is he's backpedaling a little bit. Can you understand?
Well, first of all, I'm elected to serve 520,000 people. North Fresno, South Fresno, all areas of Fresno.
Right.
And at the time, after that B interview you played earlier, people came to me, Council Member Soria and Oliver Baines, and said there's a lot of people in the community that are scared. They're afraid that the Fresno Police Department is going to start sweeps of undocumented workers. And I met up with a group of about 20 of them, and there were some really good voices there. And I said, okay, my job is to reassure people, which I knew our policy was not to enforce
on, caller.
immigration policy. So we had a press conference to basically assure people that the city of Fresno has not, for probably the last 30 or 40 years, or if ever, and it was a policy codified about 15 years ago, our police department does not engage in immigration enforcement. And that's true with 93% of the cities in the United States. I had Chief Dyer there to reaffirm that. Now, when we arrest somebody for a crime, whether it's drugs, gangs, whatever, I don't care if they're legal, we're going to send them to jail, and they will cooperate with ICE if there's a criminal charge. So that's probably the difference, I think, between, say, Fresno and maybe San Francisco, where they've went further and they have legal defense funds. They openly say they're going to resist cooperation. We don't do that. Yeah. But we don't have the resources. So some of these groups, they want me to change the policy, and I'd have to have it approved by the council anyway, and go out and have our police department that's probably at least 200 to 300 people short to go out and do this immigration enforcement. That means I'm leaving murderers and gangbangers, drug dealers to go and do their trade. I would not be responsible for me as a mayor. Number two, where would I put them? Would I put them in county jail? Would they release the next day? Do I start a detention camp? That's the purview and the authority of the federal government, immigration. So our job is my primary job as mayor is to keep the streets of Fresno safe. And by doing that, I wouldn't be doing that. So I understand this is a very emotional issue from both sides. Yeah. But I need to pick to govern is different than to sit behind a desk and pontificate, to be on a radio show and have your opinions. That's their job. I understand it. They go look for ratings. I agree. I understand it. My job is to govern, and to govern is to be fair and rational and not to go to extremes and to follow the law as much as possible.
Yeah, but you can understand how some people felt.
Absolutely.
You backtracked a little bit. You were just trying to explain what the policy is, but how do you please both sides? By governing, because it's different than campaigning. How do you govern yet try to please everyone? Is it impossible?
It is impossible. What I've learned in this issue, because it has, I think 80% of the people are probably agree with me. There's extremes on both sides. You can never please everybody. So I get hate mail from both sides. I must be doing something right. So.
Yeah. Here's the question that I have, though. If the federal government, and this is kind of a sticky question because you never know what the federal government's going to do, especially now that Donald Trump is the president. If the feds come up with a brand new system that would give the local police, by logging in a detailed description of people, okay, illegal immigrants, then the question is, these are people that ICE maybe would like to question. And let's say there's a match in the system, okay? Even if they have a valid California driver's license, as you know, illegal immigrants here in the state of California, they can drive, they can get a license. Would you as mayor ask the Fresno Police Department to cooperate with that new federal system if that were in place? For example, would you allow the police discretion to instruct the officers either to use the system or not use the system?
Let me first say, I don't answer hypothetical questions, but let me try to put context to it. There's the most recent guidelines, and that's another problem. You know, there's a lot of uncertainty in Washington. We're really in an unprecedented time in our history, in my opinion. It kind of reminds me maybe back in the late 60s and 70s with the Vietnam War that had a nation divided. But it's unprecedented. So every time there's a leak of a memo or somebody says something, everybody jumps. You know, one thing I've learned about President Trump, I think he throws a lot of stuff out there just to test reactions. He's totally different. I don't think the press has figured him out yet. And I'm going to reserve judgment. I think some of the areas he's going need to be looked at. But the most current guidelines, they were talking about, you know, deputizing local area law enforcement. But they're referring to border towns like San Diego, El Paso. They're not referring to cities like the city of Fresno. So I would say it's almost highly unlikely, if not impossible, that we're going to ever be asked to engage in immigration enforcement.
To contact ICE and say, hey, we have this person in custody. You want to talk to him. You'll never instruct.
Remember, once they go to the county jail, it's Margaret Mims, Sheriff Mims. She makes that decision. Now, any criminal matter, make this very clear, any criminal matter, we will cooperate. That's our job. We don't want to have, because the irony is that
these undocumented people that are maybe involved in crimes, their victims are primarily undocumented immigrants. So we need to protect everybody, every citizen in this city. But I don't see a time when they're going to ask the Fresno Police Department to be an enforcement
On watch, in other words,
yeah.
on watch. We
Yeah.
pulled over a guy, we have to contact ICE. You can't ever see a time when that's going to happen. But what's the policy now? What are you instructing your police chief, Jerry Dyer, to do now?
What's called Policy 428. I'll try to get you a copy if you don't have a copy. And it says when the Fresno Police Department, again, this has been a policy for 15 years.
Hang on, caller.
And a practice for probably 30 plus years, is they don't question people whether they're legal or illegal. If they were drunk, they'll test them their sobriety. If they're pulled over for suspicion of a crime, they got a gun or they got drugs, they'll be arrested like anybody else. So they're treated no different, except if they commit a crime, they will go to jail. And if they go to jail and Sheriff Mims gets ICE involved, then so be it.
Okay, but Jerry Dyer is working under your guidelines, the
Yeah.
federal guidelines, or is at his own discretion?
He's working under our guidelines. Jerry and I have a very good relationship. We're on sync, in constant
Right.
communication on this.
Okay, caller, go ahead. Quickly, you're on with the mayor.
I wanted to ask, do you intend on making Fresno a sanctuary for the immigrants?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Because
So
that
you're not going to go.
Yeah, but what that means in some cities now, and I'm getting a better definition. There's no clear definition at all. But as this whole thing drama plays out, I'm seeing what other cities are trying to ratchet up what they're going to do. A lot of it is a lot of hot air from a lot of people. But there's certain cities like San Francisco, we're going to have a legal defense fund. We'll resist any effort by ICE, including criminals. Well, I don't accept that. That's a violation of law. Our job is to protect our citizens. Our job is not to be a sanctuary for anybody. So, no, that's not going to happen under my watch.
All right, ma'am. Anything else quickly?
No, that's it.
Okay.
That's all I want to know. Thank you.
All right,
very
good. Good call. Thank you very much. Mayor Lee Brand is here. Got to take a quick time out here on Connect with Me on Meet TV Fresno. Glad he's here on a Friday morning. Glad you're there. 436 Meet TV option 11. We'll continue the conversation in just a moment.
Frigidaire. It means the first electric refrigerator. The first compact electric range. Now, there's the Frigidaire Gallery Range with Symmetry double ovens. It's designed to cook multiple dishes at multiple temperatures, so you can prepare the entire meal at the same time. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
It's Sully and Russ on the Big Biz Show.
It's your biz.
And maybe they'll start listening to Baldwin
Now,
McCullough.
before you make any money moves, check in with the Brain Trust.
And you are starting your week off right.
Biz TV is now on KDHF channel 4.6.
All right, back here on the program, Connect with Me on MeTV Fresno. I'm glad you're here. As you may know by now, Homeland Security is cracking down, obviously, on illegal immigrants. I want to roll the videotape and show you exactly what I'm talking about, my friends, because this is a critical issue that is facing the country and the President of the United States. That means that roughly 11 million people are at risk for deportation, according to the administration. Yesterday, the President gave himself a pat on the back for the number of deportations in his first month in office. We're getting gang members out, we're getting drug lords out, we're getting really bad dudes out of the country, Trump said, at a rate that nobody has ever seen before. Well, last month, 680 illegal immigrants who committed crimes were arrested, but those were planned under the Obama administration. President Donald Trump called it a military-type operation, but in reality, the White House clarified that the president meant to use the word military as an adjective. All right, put up the photos, my friends. Meanwhile, ICE agents have 24-hour access to the Fresno County Jail, as you know. Fresno County is only one of possibly 2 counties in the entire state of California to give ICE a free hand to enforce federal immigration laws inside the jail. In June of 2015, when the Fresno County Sheriff's Department began a pilot program with Homeland Security to implement PEP, Priority Enforcement Program, ICE agents have taken in roughly 330 illegal immigrants who've committed crimes and are eligible for deportation. Sheriff Margaret Mims says, hey, we're not doing immigration sweeps. No, not across the city of Fresno. This is all taking place inside the jail. That's right. And so, in the original interview with the Fresno Bee on January the 25th, Mayor Lee Brand mentioned that Fresno might lose out on federal money. It also became, the fact is, he didn't want to get involved in any type of cultural war. All right, roll the videotape. I'll show you what I'm talking about. When you want to talk about a cultural war, look at this. Recently, a small but a very loud protest occurred outside a ballroom in downtown Fresno when the mayor addressed the Fresno Chamber of Commerce. They were protesting the stance that Fresno has as not being a sanctuary city for undocumented immigrants. In fact, there was a constant chatter coming from a woman, that woman using a bullhorn. She proclaimed that deportation is genocide. There was a sign that read, you see it right there, it says smash white supremacy. And so the question is, Mayor, are these people are they over the top? Are they overreacting? Are they being disrespectful? Is this all for naught because the policy has been in place, like you said, for years?
Actually, I saw an article recently going back 3 years during the Obama administration, where in places like San Diego, even San Francisco, had a number of deportations, including non-criminal deportations. So this has been going on. It was under the radar. Nobody said anything. I think a lot of this is a reaction to the Trump administration. Politically, there are a lot of people that don't like him, and this is one manifestation they can demonstrate on. And I think some of their leaders have used this issue to create hysteria among people and I think there's genuine concern out there in the Asian immigrants. I've talked to their people.
The Hmong
community and with the Hispanic community. I met with the Mexican consul the other day. I did a show on Univision to assure people that we're not trying to break up families, arrest innocent people. We are only focused on criminal activity.
Would you be willing to sit down with some of these groups, like some of those protesters, and say, look, really? I mean, we're not deporting people. We're not making immigration sweeps. Would it be worth your time to do that?
I did meet with people like that. And so, most of the people are reasonable people. Councilmember Soria and Baines, they got it. At that last meeting they had last Saturday, they didn't show up. They know I made the case that, what we're doing, we're not engaging, we're not threatening anybody. That being said, I don't think that I'll ever properly convey that. There's certain elements out there that are extreme. There's people that think that California belongs to Mexico. So I can't.
What would you tell those people if you had a chance to talk to them?
I would tell them the same thing I would tell either side. We're trying to do our job as the city of Fresno, and our job is to keep the streets of Fresno safe, okay, for everybody that lives in the city of Fresno. Our job is not to be an arm of immigration enforcement.
All right, let me ask you about the 2 statements that you made to the Fresno Bee. Do you think that maybe these 2 statements were maybe the statements that got everybody kind of riled up? The federal money, say we can't lose out on that federal money, which we can't in a lot of ways. And you brought up the 2 words cultural wars. Right. Do you think those kind of got people maybe a little fired up I think for some of these rallies or not?
Well, I think this issue is a very emotional issue that touches a nerve in a lot of people from both sides. I made the one statement about the cultural wars. I believe this is something that, as a mayor, you've got to govern, and governing is different than pontificating from a different, from a advertising or business point of view.
Right.
And to do that, sometimes you've got to walk a line. I've got to walk a line between Washington, D.C., and I'll walk a line between Sacramento, with one being Republican, one being Democrat. And as far as the money, I had the city manager find out. We're looking at $250 million at risk.
Hang on, caller.
This city would go bankrupt if, half of that was not given, or that was delayed 6 months. I would be absolutely irresponsible to jeopardize that money. Now, I've heard my opposition, Lee takes money over people. That's not the case. It's practical. Most of that money, by the way, ironically, goes into public transportation, housing, things that benefit both poor people and probably some undocumented immigrants.
You think the Trump administration, with the message that is being brought out by Donald Trump on a daily basis, it's unpredictable.
Yes.
Do you think that's inflaming people more than what you said?
It probably contributes. There's no question. I would hope that President Trump figures out what he wants to do. And even the travel ban, he's got that down now where they're going to exclude people with visas, exclude people that have dual citizenship. That should have been thought out to begin with. I think some of this stuff has been going out in a hasty manner, not being really thought out. I think the intent, I can see where the intent is, and our national security is certainly at risk here. But you need to engage people. What I've learned just locally in 8 years on the council, it's a collaboration. He's going to have to work with the Congress, the Democrats and the Republicans and the governors and even the mayors to find solutions. And I'm glad they're looking at areas they didn't look at. I hope that they can motivate both sides in Congress to get comprehensive immigration reform. That's part of the solution.
And here's the thing, I got to take the call here, but here's the thing. Fresno is not a sanctuary city, yet by the same token, we're not making these mass immigration sweeps. People are not being thrown out. Yes, ICE is in the jail, but that's the Fresno County Sheriff's Department, one of just 2 counties in the state of California to do that. So it's not like the mayor is ordering the police department to go throughout the city of Fresno and make these mass immigration sweeps. So yeah, we can take the federal money and leave things as is. Perhaps people are overreacting. I don't know. Caller, what do you think? You're on the air.
I had a couple questions kind of regarding the public transportation. I live in northwest Fresno, and the city is growing, and say, for example, if you lived on Grantland and Shaw or Hayes, or if you lived on McKinley and Polk, to take a city bus, you have to walk all the way, for example, to Shaw and Polk. Instead of doing fast buses, maybe we should extend the bus lines. Thank you.
That question is, then most of the funding that we get for our fax bus service is from the federal government. And we are debating now at the city whether to have more routes but less frequent service, or have less routes and more frequent service. Because some people say, I get off work at 8 o'clock at night, the bus quits running at 6 o'clock. So that's the debate we're doing. And that's for both existing buses, not the BRT buses.
Okay. All right. Hey, got to take a quick break. Thank you, caller. Anything else real quick, because we're short on time? Oh, okay. Thank you very much. 436-ME-TV, option 11. We're back. We're going to change topics. Mayor Lee Brand is here. Back in a moment.
This is Tough TV, Tough Sports, Tough Lifestyle, Tough Drama, Tough Reality, Tough Talk, Tough Specials, Tough Movies, Tough TV.
Now on KVHF 4.2.
Are you tough enough?
When you like Ventura TV Appliance on Facebook, it's nice. But when you love the Samsung big screen we deliver, it's even better. Our website is cool, and it's a good place to start. But you really should touch the merchandise before you buy. Time for that upgrade to an HD 3D web-enabled Samsung TV. Get the best selection, price, and service in town without waiting. Come in to Ventura TV Appliance and touch the merchandise today.
Okay, back here with the mayor of Fresno, Lee Brand. Glad you're here. Caller, let's take this one, and we're short on time. Go ahead, you're on the air.
Yes, I was, by the way, congratulations to the mayor.
Thank you.
I'm so happy that you became our mayor. And my question is, the other day in the newspaper, we had some people come in that were immigrants, and they were given a piece for their family. And how does that work? Where does that money come from that we give to them to be here?
Well, it doesn't come from the city. It's probably from the federal government or the state government.
It does come from the federal government.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then my other question is, I understand that it's a serious problem. So what I'm concerned with, like they say that we want to get the criminals. Sure, we need everybody that's here. The immigrants are more than welcome. But what about the fact that there are people that are committing crimes and they might be immigrants? When they go to jail, does the federal government, are they going to come in? I understand that Margaret Mims and the chief of police met with Mr. Donald Trump. I don't know what the outcome of that was. I hope it was good. Basically, do you know anything about that?
Yes, I did speak to Chief Dyer, and the city of Fresno on criminal matters will cooperate with ICE agents, and I know Sheriff Mims does the same thing. So if there's somebody arrested for selling drugs, gang activity, anything that's illegal, both the city and I'm fairly certain that Sheriff Mims will cooperate.
And you have to cooperate with the feds.
By law, you have to cooperate, yes.
Go ahead, caller, quickly.
Do you know when the community hospital will be going in? There was a big article about McCarthy having, not McCarthy, listen to me, the homes that were being built. Do you know when or how the community hospital will break ground, or they'll start out here, because we could sure use it?
Okay, thank you.
Yes, the downtown. I've met with the board at the community hospital, and this is a major expansion of about 1,000 rooms to service Fresno and the surrounding area. That should be going within probably the next year. It's going to employ a lot of people in the construction trades.
Yep.
And once it's completed, it's going to employ a lot of people in permanent jobs.
Yeah. Hey, let's change topics here a little bit and talk about the Fed stepping up the crackdown on the use of marijuana across the country and targeting those states like California that legalized marijuana in the November election. Let's roll the videotape, show you exactly what I'm talking about. As you know, California, the voters said yes, they want to legalize recreational use of marijuana back in November. But it does not go into effect until next year. During a news conference at the White House yesterday, Press Secretary Sean Spicer said, regarding federal drug laws, marijuana is still illegal, and that the president fully expects law enforcement agents to enforce federal marijuana laws when they come into conflict with states that have legalized recreational use, like California under President Obama. He said, we have bigger fish to fry than cracking down on marijuana use in states where it's legal. That's what President Obama said, but not under Donald Trump. Spicer linked marijuana to widespread abuse of painkillers and other drugs, but was careful to distinguish between the use of medical marijuana and recreational use. Okay. The question is, when this comes into play next year, hang on, caller, Mayor Brand, would you allow, or would the city council allow, and would you sign off on, approve the commercial sales of marijuana in the city of Fresno? That's the big question.
Well, as we speak, one council member was going to bring forward an ordinance that would ban all marijuana sales within Fresno. Mm-hmm. Another council member was going to bring an ordinance that would authorize the opening of clinics, or it was a workshop to discuss it.
Right.
This is a very important issue that needs to be vetted first. First thing we have to know is what's the Trump administration attitude, because under Obama let it go. Yeah. And so we didn't know whether Trump is going to use the state rights still, let states make their own laws. It sounds like if that's the direction they're going to go. To me, that paints a pretty clear path in front of us. We're probably going to have to ban it, marijuana.
You'll have to follow federal law.
Federal law. We're a nation of laws. So if that's how it is, that's how we're going to do it. Now, if the Trump administration lets the states prevail, whether I personally, and I voted against Prop 64, but it's the law. A big majority of California people did. So the question is, do we regulate it? For example, do you put it only in industrial areas, keep it out of residential? If you ban it completely, will it simply go to your neighborhood dealer and get the pot? I don't think this is going to do anything at all to keep people from getting marijuana. So if the Trump administration allows the state of California to do what they're going to do, mm-hmm. we need to look at all options, including zoning, and potentially, I've met with the chief, there's $10 million potential revenues that could go directly back to public safety where it belongs. So it's wide open right now, and my options are open, but a lot will depend on the Trump administration.
Yeah, and no matter what, you'll follow federal law, because there are some cities like San Francisco, mm-hmm. L.A., maybe Sacramento, who knows, maybe Eureka,
Mhm.
they'll bypass federal law and say, look, we passed it here in California. We don't care what the Trump administration is doing, but
Right.
you'll follow federal law.
That's my, yeah, as I understand, as it's been explained to me right now, that's how we'd probably follow that policy. But that's, like anything going on,
down the road.
that's a day-to-day change.
That's down the road.
Right.
See, that's the problem with the President Trump's administration is you never know from day to day. It could change.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
So anyway, caller, quickly, short on time. Go ahead. You're on with the mayor.
Yes, I have a question. What if you're an illegal immigrant and you commit a crime by hitting your wife on an accident? Will you still go to, they'll deport you or they won't deport you?
Did you hit your wife?
Yeah, just because I found her cheating on me and I accidentally slapped her hard and went to jail. And the charges are still pending. The DA picked the charges up. Am I going to get deported or just they're going to let me slide?
Well, that's going to depend on the ICE agents, because if you, assaulted your wife, and that sounds like a definition of assault. That's
You can be legal or illegal.
Yeah,
You're
that's
still
a
gonna go to jail.
that's a felony, whether you're illegal or illegal, and that's up to the ICE agents what they want to do. But potentially they could deport. They could deport you.
Yeah, good idea not to slap anyone. How about that? So, all right, let's change topics here a little bit and put that photo up, or not the photo, but the videotape. I don't know if you'd had a chance to see this of the naked man that was tased by Fresno police. I don't know. I've seen this a few times on Facebook. I've seen it a few times other places on social media. It is rather disturbing. This is video from the car and driving by very quickly. So here it is. This happened along Fresno Street, Indianapolis, and the man's name is Scott Buchnoff, 38 years old, 6'6", 260 pounds. Fresno Police Department, you see they're tasing him. A lot of people outraged by what they had seen here on the video. What's your reaction, Mayor? And did the police do the right thing in your judgment?
Well, that's the first time I've seen that, and I'll reserve judgment because what I've learned. Every incident, there's different angles, different perspective. So I'm not going to make judgments one way or the other unless I have all the facts in front of me.
Have you talked to the chief yet, or
no? Not on this one.
Yet.
We've been
But
too busy on immigration. So
yeah, so you're not going to. Yeah, I know, sanctuary city or not, right?
Yeah.
You're going to hear that a lot. But hang on, caller. Will you eventually talk to the chief about that, or not? Obviously, this man had, and there, we've talked about this on the show many times before. In fact, when you've been here, there are people out there that do have a lot of mental issues. I don't know if this man had a mental issue or a problem. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. And it's the question of how police should handle these types of incidents.
this actually reminds me many years ago when streaking was a fad. When people would go out to events and go naked to shock people. In fact, I remember the Oscars had a streaker back about 30, 40 years ago. I don't know. Should we have a nude-free zone in Fresno?
But is it and I think there's a bill that was passed that officers, I think, have to be more sensitive to people with mental issues. Is that right?
Well, actually, this is a good segue. In about probably 2 or 3 weeks, we'll be bringing a Citizens Public Safety Advisory Board to the council. This would be a group of citizens that represent a broad cross-section of the city of Fresno that I would appoint that would look at things like police policies, practices, procedures, anything from tasing a naked man running down the street to an excessive force, or even to like a shooting like Dylan Noble, there to have an input directly to the police auditor so we can examine those policies to see maybe we should make some changes, because sometimes those end up in big lawsuits that cost taxpayers a lot of money.
Yeah. Caller, quickly, short on time. Glad you called. You're on with the mayor.
Yeah, Mayor, I'm glad that you're now the mayor.
Thank you.
I wanted to see what your views are on a situation that happened in Waco, Texas, with like 200 bikers. The helicopter, the feds were shooting at them out of the helicopters, killed some of them. It was over a beef in the restaurant. It spilled out over it. No innocent bystanders got hurt. Those guys have been locked up in a Texas jail for over a year and a half. They're losing everything. And, yeah, you're laughing. Anyways, they're not getting out. Their lives have been totally thrown under the bus. And, by the way, they are tax-paying citizens.
Yeah,
I want to know How do you feel about that? And secondly, these immigrants coming into Fresno from Syria, we're going to end up having to donate our money to take care of them. Are you going to stand for that? I want to know what you're going to say.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
It's a good question.
Two-part question.
Well, the first question, I don't know the details, what happened in El Paso. I know El Paso, right by the Mexico border, is a pretty wild place with drug cartels. In fact, I know there's probably a travel advisory for American citizens not to go across the border. So
Yeah.
I don't know. And I think there's times when there's excessive force by the police. There's times that prosecutors abuse their powers. I don't know in this situation, but it can happen.
Yeah.
As
far as the Syrian refugees, are we going to have to pay?
I didn't find out really about a week ago that there were some Syrian refugees coming in. The city has absolutely no say in whether it's a decision made in federal immigration.
Not a city issue.
Not a city issue, but I would say my concern as a citizen anywhere would be that in today's world of terrorism and real threats out there, that we need to make sure we thoroughly vet people coming into the country. But that's something now that Trump is president, he can pass laws that are reasonable. And
these are some of the Syrian refugees here, Mayor, that have come into the city of Fresno. We've actually documented this quite a few times on the program here, but again, not a city issue.
No, there's no city money involved. It's all federal money. I do know they worked actively in the faith-based community, both with Muslim churches and Christian churches.
Yeah.
So there's a humanitarian side to this too. But
yeah. Hey, I got to go to break, but before we do, okay, because we were talking about this before the show, kind of off camera. I guess you can't say anything about the Hustler lawsuit that's on the front page of the Bee today, right? I saw that when I woke up, and I go, "Wow."
That's a tough one. And
I know you can't comment on any ongoing lawsuits. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. I would say I hope that we can reach a solution that we don't have to go either side.
It's like any lawsuit that's filed against the city. Hey, another quick call, and then we'll go to break. Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yeah, my question, I was just watching your show, and I saw you guys talk about an incident where a man was tased or something like that.
Yes,
well, it's kind of related to that. A couple days ago, an off-duty LAPD officer pulled a gun on a student or a kid that was walking across his yard or something like that, and there was like a lot of media coverage over it. Is there anything that we should be worried about with the Fresno PD as far as all this, or that something like this might happen in Fresno, or what's the deal with that?
There's always, you're at flashpoints. So you're a police officer, and a given day everything's peaceful, and out of nowhere somebody runs out of a store, they've got a gun. There's a lot of unpredictable situations, but I do know from my time on the council and my brief time as mayor talking to the chief, there's a lot of training that goes into our PD officers on how to handle different situations like that. But still, ultimately, there's human decisions. You're making split-second decisions whether to shoot, not to shoot. So as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have the Citizens Advisory Board, and it will work with the independent police auditor to work directly with our police department to find and examine these kind of practices and procedures to make sure we're doing the best we can possibly do for the situation.
All right, back in a moment. More of our conversation with Mayor Lee Brand after this quick timeout.
When you like Ventura TV Appliance on Facebook, it's nice. But when you love the Whirlpool appliances we deliver, it's even better. Our website is cool, and it's a good place to start, but you really should touch the merchandise before you buy. Touch the new Whirlpool Ice Collection. It offers a modern style made to create an inspiring kitchen experience. Save big on this Whirlpool Black Ice or White Ice kitchen. Come into Ventura TV Appliance and touch the merchandise today.
You can find movies on over-the-air channel 13.3. Movies. Our name says it all.
All right, back here on the show with Mayor Lee Brand, and one of the critical issues facing Fresno is that downtown parking lot. Let's put up the picture, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. It's outlined there in red. We talked about this extensively yesterday on the program. Parking lot number 2. That's an interesting title, by the way, Mayor. It was owned by the old RDA, Redevelopment Agency, now the Oversight Board, but they sold it to the City of Fresno, $420,000. City officials initially said no, then yes to buying it. They avoided auction. City maneuvering, or oversight board maneuvering, whatever you want to call it, behind the scenes made it all possible. So, my friend, Mayor Lee Brand, why is this land so valuable to the City of Fresno? Why did you have to have it when initially it was, I know it was the prior administration, Mayor Ashley Swearingen, and then when you came in, it changed. But why is this property so valuable to the City of Fresno? Why do you need it?
Well, behind the scenes, there's a very easy answer. I can't really get into details, but there's different parties with different plans for development on that end of the mall. I mean, suffice it to say that depending on which one got it, would go in a different direction. So I had a great relationship with Mayor Swearingen, but we didn't agree on everything. This was one area we didn't agree upon. So I believe that's a valuable lot, and with the plans I've seen to develop that north end, I think it'll blend in perfectly.
Tax revenue for the City of Fresno?
Well, when that was sold for $420,000. When RDA's, it's just a tax increment. I believe we get about 17-18% our share, 20 cents on the dollar. So part goes to the county, part goes to the school system, part goes to special districts. So it was done at fair market value. It wasn't inflated. Once that's off the tax rolls, if that's a fully developed parcel, let's say they build a garage out, that's probably worth, maybe $8, $9, $10 million, okay? Then it's on the tax rolls. You take 1% of that, now you got tax money coming back to taxpayers because you've elevated the tax base.
Yeah, one time, the bids were out. High Speed Rail Authority, Fresno Housing Authority, Preston Prince, the chief executive officer there. It was going to go to auction. You avoided the auction. And at one time, Cliff Tatalian, who owns that old PG&E building there, right across the street, he wanted it for parking, but the city ends up with it. And long story short, you're going to get revenue in the long term. That's going to help the City of Fresno,
Substantial. Right? It's not only the parking lot. And in the end, Cliff will not be disappointed, by the way.
Okay.
Okay. Right. And he's going to make some improvements. There's other improvements along the mall. And this is part of the entire process of downtown revitalization. You're taking buildings or vacant parcels worth nothing. They're elevated $10, $15 million. Multiply that across the entire length of Fulton Street. That's a huge increase to our tax base. That's sales tax, property tax, business tax, room tax. That means we can pay for more police officers and all the essential services we need in the city.
Will that lot there, will it stay as is, like a parking lot, or will there be development on it?
I'm pretty sure there'll be development on it.
Okay. Retail housing?
Not sure, but most developments down there are mixed-use developments where they're putting a combination of retail, office, and residential.
Yeah, let me ask you something along the same lines. $70 million coming to the city. I mean, that's like hitting the lottery. $70 million from the state of California, all due to cap and trade. You had a recent meeting that you went to. I saw that there were people there that said, Mayor, you cannot use that for downtown revitalization. Mayor, you cannot use that for high-speed rail. Mayor, you cannot use it for this. Mayor, you cannot use it for that. What is that money going to be used for? Because that's like hitting the lottery.
Yeah, this is the first time that I can recall in my lifetime that Fresno finally got its fair share. Because Fresno, here's the good news and the bad news. The good news is we got the award out of all the cities in California, and they hit the jackpot, the biggest single grant in our history, $70 million. The bad news is we were eligible to receive that award because we have to have high extreme poverty, air quality issues, so we qualify at the top. But what we're trying to do is change that with $70 million. So the question is,
what to do with it?
And the scoping guidelines are coming from the Strategic Initiatives Council in Sacramento, and I've testified a few months ago there. And right now the focus is in about 1 mile radius of the high-speed rail. That may change. There's advocates for improvements to West Fresno, and you could certainly make the case there's no curbs, gutters, sidewalks. I get it. I think in the end there's going to be a democratic process. There will be some money probably spent over there. How much, I don't know. But the purpose is to be transformative, to leverage the investment. One of the biggest obstacles of developing downtown or anywhere, when you have a 100-year-old infrastructure, a developer can't afford to spend millions of dollars bringing it up to date. This money can be used to put in infrastructure. This money will be leveraged 2 or 3 to 1. So $70 million becomes maybe $200 million. $200 million downtown not only transforms downtown, it transforms the entire city. Thousands of jobs, again, tax base.
It will be used for downtown revitalization?
Yeah, they're going to bring in,
the $70 million.
Well, for example, there's along 8th Street where the high-speed rail station is going to be. There's already developers building these mixed-use type of products. There's talk of a theater downtown, a bowling alley. Okay, these are amenities that don't exist. There's a lot of stuff going on downtown. Look, it's going Bitwise is going from 5,000 square feet to 50,000 square feet, now to 250,000 square feet. These are free market forces. This is not the government. Market forces drive this. You put $70 million plus, you're going to see more development, and cap and trade is used what they call gap funding. So if I got a project, I'm $5 million short, you're eligible in the competitive process to get cap and trade funding.
So you're saying all of it's going to be used for downtown redevelopment?
Most of it will be probably within 2 miles
of downtown.
Using a radius starting with the high-speed rail station. If not
with and then just go a 2 mile radius out
well,
from
again,
that.
Figure a concentric circle, either 1 mile or 2 mile. That's to be determined.
That's where that money will be used.
Yes.
Okay, because I know, I may not know much about you, but I do know one thing. You pay attention to detail. I've known that about you over the course of the last year and a half, and you're a money guy, and you're very precise about numbers. You're a numbers guy. So,
well, this
so
will have a huge...
But is there going to be enough to go around for even these groups?
No. There's people, John, that want, for example, they want to have a park built with it. And there's nothing wrong. We need a lot of parks.
Right.
But a park does not generate activity or leverage activity from the private sector. If I put enough infrastructure along 8th Street, that'll be an inducement for developers to come in because they've cut their costs. I wrote the Economic Expansion Act a year ago that says in revitalized areas, if you build, bring in new jobs, we'll waiver development impact fees, off-site improvements. All those collectively build the economic business model that makes people want to build. And when you take old dilapidated buildings and you make them $10, $15, $20 million buildings that are privately owned, not publicly owned, our tax base and the taxpayers in this city benefit because those monies are used, police, fire, potholes, sidewalks.
Right, and the Fulton Corridor, that's going to be the centerpiece too.
Yes.
So that is important down there. So
absolutely.
So that's why you plan to spend the majority of that money within that 2 mile radius.
Here's if you look at the plan, this is probably, in my opinion, one reason the baseball stadium never worked. They never planned around the baseball stadium. If you build, they will come. They don't. You've got to be strategic in how you develop. And I know this from 38 years in the business. The mall is one that needs to be open. The stadium needs to be utilized properly. The convention center, the high-speed rail. Those are the 4 corners. Working in between those 4 corners, you can have a really successful development that a year from now, you'll say, these guys did something right.
All right, can't let you go here yet because we got about 6 minutes left. But I do want to ask one controversial question, and that is the project labor agreements. Initially, you were against using that. Now you're in favor of using project labor agreements. Why the change of heart?
My job is to represent the city of Fresno.
Okay.
And I do it kind of, my approach is a business-like approach. I don't try to make it ideological. I mean, I have my own core values, but a pivotal part of us winning the $70 million award was getting support from Sacramento. A big side of that support were labor unions.
Okay.
Okay. So if I had, say, voted no and we didn't have a project labor agreement, I can't say that, yeah, for sure it wouldn't have gone through. I know it was a critical factor.
So it hinged on maybe that $70 million.
I know that this is the first installment. There's more money coming down the road on this.
Right.
That if I can bring in $70 million, and there'll be $35 million of that was for infrastructure. Another $35 million private sector contracts will be able to bid and everybody's going to get business out of it. There's a lot more details behind
When
that.
people look at that and they say, well, you changed your mind, is this a classic example of, hey, listen, I campaigned on one thing, but now I'm the mayor and I've got to govern and I have to look at everything? Is that a classic example?
Yes, it is, because when you're there, you're making those decisions. Like Donald Trump, he made a lot of campaign promises. Now the rubber hits the road. You've got to
Right.
work with Congress. What can you do? And I've got to do whatever I think is best for the city of Fresno from a very pragmatic business point of view to benefit the entire city.
All right, quick break, 436 MeTV option 11. Our last segment here, we'll talk about slumlords. That's right, back in a moment.
Ventura TV Appliance Center. We're the save energy, save time, save money place. The Energy Star qualified #1 rated high efficiency Cabrio from Whirlpool Place. You heard right. Right now, save big on select Whirlpool Cabrio laundry pairs and pay no interest when paid in full within 6 months. At the hometown low price, think outside the big box place. Since 1951, Ventura TV Appliance Center. We're working hard to be your place.
Want to create something extraordinary? Create perfection. Our lifestyle appliances make it easy. KitchenAid, Ventura TV Appliance, and you, when only the best will do.
Last segment here, a major breakthrough for the city of Fresno earlier this month. The city council voted on a long-awaited housing plan to track down on slumlords. And I want to go to the photos here, the Somerset Village Apartments. Here it is. Here's how it came about. The last straw came in November of 2015 when the residents living at the Somerset Apartments were forced out. 220 units cleared out. No gas, no hot water, no heat. Residents forced to live in the complex. And about 150 of those residents filed a lawsuit against the apartment owner, Chris Henry, demanding that he cough up $3 million. One person, a 78-year-old, died from respiratory failure, pneumonia. His widow blamed Henry. That's the picture of Henry there, public enemy #1. He agreed to pay $200,000 in fines. More recently, this man, Kumar Sharma of Los Angeles, put on notice as the owner of the California Hotel, or Hotel California. And of course, all 49 doors of the hotel were tagged by code enforcement. Tenants left, scrambling, desperate to find a place to live. Roll the videotape. This is not an apartment. It's a hotel meant for short stays, but people with no credit, prior evictions, unreliable income were all in there. This became a potential fire hazard. Some were using portable heaters. And, this could have caused an overload on the system and caused a fire. Some residents blame the city. No heat, mold, cockroaches, mice, cracks in the walls, no smoke detectors. The list goes on. So now there's a plan in place. The city council voting 4-3. Let me read to you what the plan is. And property inspections, tenant education, and basically, you have to sign up, Mayor, to be on a list.
Well, first of all, this is a problem that's been in Fresno for many years. And the question, can you reactively, in other words, you can respond by complaint, or do you have to proactively find a solution? Well, as you mentioned, the Somerset Village. Somerset Village, if you relied on the tenants complaining, nothing would ever happen. So if you have a proactive program that can go out there and do a sampling, you're going to identify these kind of issues. So I realized this was tough for me for being in the business for 38 years.
They're required to register, though, condominiums, single-family homes, and apartment complexes. What about those short-stay hotels, motels type things?
That's a totally separate category.
Okay.
So if you own a single-family home that's used as a rental, now if you have your mother-in-law there, your son or your daughter, you're exempt. If you rent to housing authority subsidized tenants, you're exempt. If it's 10 years or newer, you're exempt. If it has a Freddie Mac Fannie Mae loan that has an existing inspection program, you're exempt. If not, you register. There's no cost to register. And those who register will be subject to a baseline inspection.
Quickly, we only have 30 seconds. Will you be able to enforce it?
Absolutely, yes.
You will?
Yes.
You'll have the people in place to enforce it?
That's the plan, yes.
Okay. Mayor Brand, always good to see you. You always have a forum here. You're always welcome here. You know that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Mayor Lee Brand, glad he was here. You can catch this interview again on YouTube. See you Monday with Evan Onstott, KC24. Have a great and safe weekend. Stay dry.
If you have a need to promote your business or event, please consider MeTV Fresno for your next campaign. MeTV reaches over 100,000 of your potential customers in the Fresno area every single week. Plus, you can rest assured that your commercial is running in the greatest family-friendly programs of all time. MeTV Fresno delivers a strong, loyal audience ready to buy, and your campaign will cost a fraction of what you're paying for your advertising now. Call me today to find out how affordable MeTV is at 905-1925.
Explore strange new worlds on MeTV. Seek out new life.
I've seen old photographs of this period. Let's get out of here.